would soon become, or later become, the town of Cambridge.
And the Missouri River, since that time, has moved away from that campsite.
Right, so it was an important place. It was near the Arrow Rock, and this turned out to be a landmark that we were searching for, looking for, and when we passed it, we went just a little ways past there and then camped out for that night.
We know a little bit about you. We know a lot more in some ways about Meriwether Lewis. We hear about him, but you're the steady Eddie of the group. And at one point in your life, we're interviewing you now in your 60s, and at one point in your life, you really, I guess we knew you most because you had red hair. You were a large man for that era because most men were around 5'9". And how tall are you?
I'm 6'1", somewhere in that area. Seems like I shrunk a little as I got older.
And your nephew also says at this age that you're a little forgetful.
Yeah, that's why I brought my journal with me tonight, just in case. Sometimes I can't remember those dates or just when something occurred. And you know, I was very faithful about writing things down, so if you bear with me sometimes, I may just have to go in there and look to see just exactly when it was that I did something.
And when you went on the Lewis and Clark expedition, you were not married.
No, I wasn't.
So share with us a little bit about that teenager you left at home.
Well, her name was Julia. We called her Judith. And on that trip, I named a river after her up in Montana. When I seen her, I knew this is the girl that I wanted to marry, but this trip was going to intervene, and so I waited until after the trip was over and went back east to Virginia and courted her, and we finally got married in 1808. But I had to wait a little bit after we got back, a couple of years, to get everything settled, catch her eye again, and to let her know that I was really interested in her. After I was appointed to be the territorial governor of Upper Louisiana, I came on out here with her, and she really wasn't wanting to come to leave her family behind, but we were married, and she said, "I'll go with you," and she came out. Of course, she was very, very homesick. I really wanted to go back. It was difficult traveling back then, so she mostly didn't get to go as often as she would have liked.
I think it's kind of an outcome of being on the Lewis and Clark expedition. You were really fond of the Indian woman's children. And I call her Tsakagawea, and what did you call the Indian woman who was on the trail?
I called her Janie, and I had a pet name for her. She was kind of like a daughter to me, and it was just a name that I affectionately gave her. So
Tsakagawea's children, Tom, or Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, and Lizette Charbonneau, you went through the legal system and adopted those children.
yes.
Adopted those children. So, now this is interesting. There was a Missouri State Court that said that you could adopt those children, but did we think, and both parents were supposed to be not alive. So we know the mother, Tsakagawea, had passed away. What about that terrible trapper, her husband? Am I saying all the wrong things about her husband?
No, he was kind of a vile man. He was nasty. If we hadn't had needed him on that trip when we went out to the Pacific, I would have probably never had anything to do with him. But, you know, fates were with us, and it's a good thing we did, because if we hadn't took him, then Janie wouldn't have went along. I wouldn't have got to have Pop in my life and got to adopted him. So it worked out. But now this guy, they claimed he was dead. I found out later, after all of these legal proceedings had taken place, that he really wasn't dead. So it kind of called into question whether the adoption was legal, but it was already over and done with, and it was too late to do anything about it. And basically, his aunt didn't come back into the area, because I don't know exactly what I would have done if he had it, but I wouldn't have been very kind to him.